This is Summit Lake, straddling a continental divide here in Akron, Ohio. I'm Darren, and this is the Industrial Revolution. So I know what you're thinking. First of all, continental divide, Ohio? You're thinking that's something that only exists out in the Rockies or something. And you're sort of right. As far as like east-west divide, yeah, that would be out in the Rockies. But there's more than one continental divide. Here in Ohio, we have a divide that separates water going that way out to Lake Erie and going that way to the Ohio River, which goes to the Mississippi River and eventually goes out to the Gulf of Mexico. Water in this lake has two ways out, both of which are on the Ohio Erie Canal, which is how this is part of the Industrial Revolution. So this video was kind of prompted by somebody who commented on my Ohio Erie Canal video, who said, just look at a map. Any idiot can tell going from Akron to Cleveland isn't down. Obviously it's over or maybe up, but certainly not down. And he's right, it's sort of northwest. But that doesn't make any difference if you're building a canal. If you're building a canal, all you care about is distance, horizontal distance, and vertical distance. You couldn't care less what direction you're going as long as you get where you want to go. And that's why something like this actually matters. So we're sitting here at 945 feet above sea level today. The surface of Lake Erie is at 569 feet above sea level. That's a 317-foot drop from here to Cleveland. To make that 317-foot drop, there were 41 locks located off this end of the canal. That took a while to cover. It's about an hour drive today. But through that 41 locks, you would drop by usually up to 10 feet. In one case, there was actually a 19-foot drop at a place called Deep Lock. Check out my video on that. I'll link it in the description. But you had 41 locks that way. Going this way, on the other hand, headed to the south, there were 105 locks. Again, we're at 945 feet, where the canal hits the Ohio River is at 846 feet above sea level. And that's only 99 feet down, but it actually goes down some, goes up over a smaller summit, and then back down. Now, the comment sort of made me realize that, to a large degree, canals really are gigantic machines. This one's like a couple hundred miles long. Not something you normally think of as a machine, but really it is. You have to have an input to it. In this case, we have water. This lake is naturally fed. Here in North America, we had most of the canals actually were able to be naturally fed. If you look at someplace like Great Britain, on the other hand, many of those canals required canal pumps. Now, sometimes if you were connecting to a mine, that was really easy to do because you had to have a mine pump anyway. You just pumped all the water up out of the mine and dumped it into the end of the canal, and now your canal has water. Other places, you actually had to create a canal pump. So as you're trying to transition a canal, the vertical distance is really expensive. Vertical distance, a simple lock, going to take you way longer to build. It's going to cost you way more than several miles of flat canal is going to cost you. So you didn't really want to put in any more than you had to put in, but you couldn't really go more than about 10 feet. What happens, so remember your canals in the 19th century tended to be about 4 foot deep of water. At least in North America, they were about 4 foot deep minimum. So if you went a little bit deeper than that for the bottom of the upper lock gate, that meant your upper lock gate would go down 4.5, 5 feet. At the bottom of that gate, you had the wicket gate. That's the part that would open and close. It's like a butterfly valve. And when you opened it, water would pour in from above the lock, into the lock, fill the lock, and raise it. Okay, well that works great when you first open it because it's underwater. As your lock goes down though, eventually this wicket gate ends up being above water and it's pouring water in, creating a lot of turbulence. But that's okay, you've got a boat. You've got the bow of the boat is pointed, you've got the prow there, the water's hitting it, or you got the stern, which is probably flat-ended. Either way, no big deal. But as the boat keeps going down and down and down, once you get to about 10 feet of drop, now the water that's pouring in can actually start pouring into the boat. That's like driving your boat under a waterfall. There's a huge amount of water coming in here, and having that kind of water flow coming into your canal boat is in fact not the best way to keep your passengers happy, is not the best way to keep your cargo happy, and really isn't the best way to keep your canal boats captains happy either. And because of that, you usually try not to go over about 10 feet down. Now, someplace like Deep Lock, they actually went 19 feet down. That's north of here a ways. Deep Lock went 19 feet, but I think it was actually a little bit longer, which let the boats back away from that area where the water was coming in, and helped to not quite flood the boats out quite so badly. So you use the locks to move up and down, but you also had a gradient in the canal itself. On the Erie Canal, for example, they tried to do any place without locks, they tried to drop 1 inch per mile, which doesn't seem like much, but 1 inch per mile is just enough to keep just a tiny bit of water flow happening. And since you're keeping just that tiny bit of water flow happening, that really stops a lot of the algae and stuff building up. It stops a lot of the pollution. And it keeps your water cleaner. And with the cleaner water, you end up with a much nicer canal to work with. You don't have to go cut out weeds. You don't have to dredge as often. And because it's only about 1 inch per mile, you don't have so much water flow that you're dealing with a lot of erosion. And when you have boats going upriver, they're not really struggling any more than going downriver. And when you look at video of canal boats, once you get them moving, the tow animals really don't have to put much effort into it. They just sort of drift along comfortably on their own with very little effort. In fact, you can see how much slack there is in the ropes on these canal boats. So between the 1 inch drop in the canal, plus all the locks, and this canal, I remember had about 146 locks on it. Vertical means everything. And that's why from Akron here down to Cleveland is in fact down to Cleveland, even though Cleveland is mostly north, a little bit west of here. But it is mostly down to Cleveland because you have to go down 317 feet to get there. So the other interesting thing about this particular lake, aside from being on a continental divide that most people don't think of as being out here, you'll notice I'm standing on a boardwalk out here. This is a pretty conventional boardwalk. You've seen hikers and bikes go by on it. It's part of the towpath trail. It goes all the way down to Lake Erie, actually, except for some construction going on right now that's blocking it. But originally, it wasn't actually quite this nice. The banks are pretty marshy. They're kind of stagnant, mucky, something you can't really build a towpath on easily. So to do the towpath from one end of this lake to the other, they actually built a floating towpath. So it's a floating bridge that ran across this lake. You'd come in from one end, and your mule or horse-drawn teams would walk across the floating towpath to get you down to the other end. And it's the only place I've heard where it happened, although I'm sure it did happen in more places. But that's really kind of a cool feature here. Unfortunately, the original towpath, they say this boardwalk is kind of in the original location. However, I can't confirm that. Nobody was really here. Nobody really remembers it here from 1913. The canal here, of course, shut down in 1913 as part of the Great Flood of 1913. That pretty much shut down this canal completely. In 1918, this whole lake was actually taken over for the Summit Lake Park, also called the $1 Million Park. It's a giant amusement park that was here. It's something that happened out at a lot of cities that end up building piers out onto lakes and build amusement parks there. And there were rides that had, according to one place I saw, they had the country's largest mosaic tile swimming pool. went out into the lake. They had dance hall, all the stuff you find in typical early 1900s amusement parks. So anything from the towpath trail and the floating towpath, it was all gone at that point, unfortunately. And there's really nothing left of that. But as you see, the towpath trail has been rebuilt. The route of the floating towpath, we think, has been rebuilt. Some of the canal locks are being rebuilt. And the canal is sort of working on coming back to life, and people are remembering it. And that's why Summit Lake and the towpath trail here and the canal, Ohio and Erie Canal through here, this is the Industrial Revolution. Hey, wait a second before you go. I really need your help. I love coming out here and filming on location and bringing you all of this great stuff, but it is expensive. So I need you to help me grow the channel, and the easiest way to do that is just hit like. You know, it's easy, it's quick, costs nothing. Hit like on the video if you haven't already. If you can subscribe and hit notify, YouTube will let you know when I have new stuff coming out. Also, share the video with your friends, share it on social media. Let's spread the word. Also, if possible, if you can help me out financially, that would be great. It is not cheap coming out here and making these, aside from the fact that I'm spending many hours researching and editing videos. I do have travel costs that I need to cover. So best ways to do that, you can help out on Patreon. It's patreon.com/industrialrevolution, or just hit the super thanks button on YouTube. That works too. Finally, something I've just set up recently, I do have an affiliate store. Right now it's just through Amazon. If you hit the shop link on either the end screen, which is probably up on the screen right now, or on the video description or the channel description, they'll take you over to my webpage. I do have some live steam engines there, some hand grain grinding equipment there. But if you follow that link over to Amazon, for example, anything you put in your cart, even if you don't buy the thing on the link, the channel will get a percentage of the entire cart purchase. And that's really going to help me a lot. It's going to help me keep making these videos, keep bringing them to you. So thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you next week.